I've covered a couple of Phanteks cases on the channel so far. One of them has actually become a permanent graphics card test bench, I liked it that much. But today we're looking at the new Eclipse G500A, a bit more of a mid-tier in terms of price as well. This is the performance edition I've got here, but I'll tell you about the other ones that they offer as well in the video. So let's get this open and take a look. So it's a really nice dense foam as we unbox the actual case itself. As you've noticed, I put the desk down so I can actually get everything out properly. But now let's take a look. Ta-da! As the desk comes up to the right height. Very nice. First impressions, also matte black stealth, performance, power! And they do have the normal G500A, which is RGB. It's literally £10 extra. In hindsight, maybe I should have gone for that because I'm going to be putting RGB fans and things in it because I've got the D30 cooler AIO to go in the top, the same fans to go in the front. There is a little strip of RGB that goes along on the RGB version as well, along by the power supply shroud. So personally, I'd recommend that you go for that one because you can always turn it off if you don't want the lighting. So I don't know if you can tell from the camera angle, but I've just noticed at the front of this, if you were to run your hand along the outside of the frame, it's flat, but it kind of goes in like a little contour inside, a little bit of a different design. And then of course performance, so maximum airflow. As far as I can tell, there's no difference to the front of the cases depending on the RGB or non-RGB. So the performance one is just stealthy and black. As far as I can tell anyway, I'm sure someone will let me know if I'm wrong in the comments. So let's get into having a look around. First of all, the top, we have got our I/O. There's a reset button, USB Type-C. This is USB 3.2 Gen 2. We've got two USB Type-A's, which are USB 3, then a microphone headphone combi jack. On the top, we have got a removable, I was going to say filter, but it's a grill because obviously hot air rises, so you're not going to fight anything that's going to be coming out of the case. And then on the top we've got space for up to 3 140mm fans. Doesn't seem that you can support a 420mm radiator in the top, so just something to bear in mind. Got end tanks on those as well, so obviously it does make the dimensions a little bit longer. But yeah, 3 140s you can do. You can do a 420mm in the front though. I'll get around to that in a minute. Tilt this round to the front so you can see what we've got going on. There you can see a little bit better of that definition I was saying about. So it is flat if you were to run your hands across, but we've got some like indents. Let's just pop this off. So pretty fine, as you can see on the back. There isn't any magnetic dust filters on this though, something that a lot of people complained about on the H6 Flow video, but you do get a lot more performance from having no filters there. So just have to clean your PC a little bit more regularly, and I think that's well worth it for the performance gains you'll get over having a bit of extra filter material in the front. So now we can see the 3 140mm pre-installed fans. These are the M25, a mid kind of tier fan. You can get a 3-pack for around 30 quid, so they're about £10 a fan. Daisy chain as well, so that's less you have to worry about inside the internal case. Like I said a minute ago, you can also put a 420mm radiator in here if you'd rather. Does seem to be on some nice brackets that you can just take out, put all your fans and radiators on, then bring that in after, which is a nice little addition. Then on the very top, we've got an RGB strip, and that will go through to the top of the case, where we've also got a nice chunky power button. So we've got the front back on. Now let's have a look inside. Tempered glass, very tinted panel actually. You can remove it easily, so nice and convenient when you're going to be building in it. So now we can see in the belly of the beast, on the right hand side, we've got these little plastic covers, a little bit of spare plastic there. These can slide along, so you can put some cables through if you need to for your AIO, radiator or fans or anything like that, and just cover those up. You can also take these off, and much like some other cases we've looked at, you can put hard drives and SSDs in this side. You can put a total of 10 hard drives in this with some additional brackets, or 9 SSDs. I'm sure when we get to the other side we'll see where the majority of those SSDs will go. Get our accessory box out as well, and then we can see our motherboard support. So you can do an eATX in this one, micro ATX, ITX. I don't know where you go with a smaller motherboard for this kind of case, but you can do it if you need to. On the back we have got another one of the M25 fans. Has got the daisy chain connector there, which is visible and flapping about, which is a little bit annoying, especially for someone that likes to hide as many cables as possible. There are a few cable channels on the top. There's a smaller one to the right and then a longer one for your EPS connectors. The majority of AIO stuff will probably come through there as well. There are a few down in the bottom as well. No soft grommets or anything like that though, so the majority of areas are exposed or open. Just tilting this up, there's also a little sliding cover that allows you to put your graphics card connections up, so maybe your 12-watt high power or your PCIe connectors. I saw this on the P600 when we did the 1300K build. I put my cable up through there, and then there's also a little cutout for the power supply logo to be visible as well. Let's just quickly have a look in our accessory box before we look at the back. First of all, we've got some vertical mount stuff, so you don't have to buy the bracket for it. You can literally install it into the case. You just need the riser cable, so it saves you a little bit of money. These are the cages that come included for the hard drives. I saw these in the Etho 2 Pro. You can actually stack them up if you want to. But for this one, they'll use the little hooks and go on the right hand side. You can get 8 in the right, and there's also some room by the power supply for an additional 2. So if you buy some additional brackets, you can fit up to 10 in this case. And then with the second bracket, we've also got these screws in a nice little accessory box. I really like Phanteks, the way they do their screws. It makes things so much easier than trying to fiddle around with different bags and find what you need, all in one nice little tub. So looking on the back, we've got our 7 standard expansion ports. There's also the vertical mount ones I mentioned, so you can use the additional accessories to actually vertical mount your graphics card without needing the actual bracket. Can support up to a 250mm power supply in this case. There's also a nice little filter on there as well for some fresh air to be drawn in. Last but not least, the back panel. Again, it's got the very similar style like we saw on the tempered glass bit. You can just take it off with the hinges, nice and easy. So in this case, we've got some nice cable management covers, and each side has got 3 spots to add SSDs. So we've got 6 there, and then we've got 3 dedicated sleds above. If we just open these up, you'll see all of the cable tie downs and loads of Velcro straps and things we've got here. So loads of easy cable management you can do. Loads of space down by the power supply as well if you want to add any down there. We've got some little adjustments if you want to slide those little covers on that are on the other side, or you can undo that fully, then you'll get access to the little bracket latches on the other side. So looking at all of our front panel connectors, we've got 2 4-pin PWMs, so we've got the front fans on the daisy chain, and there's also one for the rear. There's a SATA power, which presumably is going to be for the white lighting that's on the front of the case. We've got our front panel and everything on one block, so it's nice and convenient. USB Type-C, USB 3 header, and then finally front panel audio. So that was a look around the G500A. It's going to come in at £139, so a little bit more of the premium side. But I want to review this case, and you can't do that without building a system in it. So I'm going to put my CPU CUDA test rig in this to give you an actual full review. We can do some thermal tests. I can tell you what it's like to build in as well, because until you start actually putting a system in, and you're chucking cables around and you're putting your fingers in different spots and seeing how tight it is, that sounds kind of on a really different path. But you honestly don't know what a case is like until you put a system in it, so we really need to do that. So we'll be back with you in a few seconds with a fully completed rig, and we can see just what it's really like. Okay, so on to the conclusion. I do have a clipboard with quite a few notes, so do bear with me. But the overall experience with this case has been really good. I enjoyed building in it, and especially once I set that white lighting, I think it really looks nice. It's only a test system as well, but I think it does look great with the overall look. I would recommend, if you're going to put an I/O in the roof, before you put your motherboard in, plug in those UPS connectors, because it's quite tight at the top. I had enough room, but I used an air cooler, so I did have a bit more space, but just something to save your fingers from being grated if you try and plug it in afterwards. I have got fan speed reducers on the front fans, so I've taken them off the daisy chain that I showed you and then set a fan speed reducer on each one, so about 1600 RPM. The back fans at full speed, and then we've got the fans on the Noctua cooler that go from 2000 down to 1600, again with fan speed reducers. Setup's exactly the same whenever I review a case, so we can get an idea for the temperatures and things. And then the only change is literally the fans that are in the case. Everything else stays the same. The platform is a 5800X3D on an X570 tough motherboard, Seagate FireCuda 530 for storage. The Noctua cooler is the U12A. A couple of things before we get to the actual temps and things. I have actually added a LED strip just for a little bit of extra white lighting. It's just tucked along the top there. I think that really helps out. And then obviously I set the white lighting on the RAM and also the graphics card, but I think to match the front of the case with the white that's on there, the components inside are using RGB to try and create white, so they're not true white like the front of this case, but I think it does match the overall theme pretty well. Of course you can go fully RGB, but I have enjoyed using this in white because I generally do full RGB for everything. So it is nice to go a bit of the opposite this time around. Some other little observations: if you do want to make use of all of those 9 SSD mounts, it's unlikely, but you do need to get some additional screws. You don't have enough in the box. Those panels as well that those screw into, I really do like. It's made the back of the case so clean. I'll put some B-roll so you can actually see what I mean. But the only cables that I've actually got visible now are just the ones for the fan speed reducers on my cooler. I've also tucked the EPS connectors up and around the side as well, so they're really tucked away. But cable management with this case is really easy to do, and I'm a big fan of it. The system itself has been fairly quiet as well, but the case is made up of 140mm fans, so the bigger the fan, the quieter they are generally anyway. The rear fan is currently off for me recording this part because I run it at 2000 RPM for the testing at full speed. So it's just obnoxiously loud trying to talk to you guys and actually have that still running. So I've pulled that off for now. But with them all running, it's not too bad. It's what you would expect for a higher underload system. But of course, if you're running it all by PWM and you're just doing general browsing or a bit of gaming, it's not going to be ramping up that high anyway, so it will remain nice and quiet. So speaking of underload, let's talk about the temperatures we saw from the G500A. I did run the Cinebench 10-minute loop and saw a high of 76.3. Room temperature was 16.1, so it's a 60.2 delta. H6 flow, another case that I've done recently, we saw a high of 76.3, but we did have a higher room delta at the time because it was a nice warm day, whereas it's now freezing in the UK, and that was a 57.3. So there's about 3 degrees warmer with this case. A couple of things that I've been thinking about where we could see a bit of variation. Obviously the fans are different for one. They have 140mm fans in this, whereas the H6 had 120mm fans, and by what I've seen, 120mm fans just move more air, be it they're a little bit louder, but they do move more. And then also the plus minus 10% that we generally see with these fans, these might just not be quite as efficient, so you might not be getting that true like 2000 RPM high end to then reduce that down, unlike say the ones in the H6 might have been a little bit more efficient. So there's a few fluctuations, few variables to consider, but 60 degrees I think is a fairly good temperature anyway. Overall though, I really do like this case. It is a little bit more than the higher end price, but Phanteks do like attention to detail. So like for example, the screws in the little case, you've got the vertical mount that comes with it, so you only need a riser, and then like the sleds for the hard drives and things like that. So those are obviously going to put some more money onto the case. Hinges and things are really easy to do. Got the side panel covers as well, the cable management covers, so that's going to add more price as well. But certainly a premium case, but I think it is worth it if you are looking for something a little bit more higher end. So we'll put the links for this in the description box below. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. Any more questions you've got, I will answer them for you, of course. Big thank you to Phanteks for sending this out for me to look at. Let me know if you want to see it in a build. Let me know what hardware we should use it in as well. Thank you all for watching, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.